My name is Kevin Sky Werner. I am the writer and creator of Stonewall, the musical, an unapologetic musical that takes place between here in our current era of 2020 and June of 1969, when police raided a gay bar known as the Stonewall Inn. Tonight would be the fourth night of the Stonewall riots, or the Stonewall Uprising, an uprising that started the modern-day LGBTQ civil rights movement to land us here today. Today is July 1st. And although last month ended Pride Month, being June, where I come from, it's hotter than July, which was a black, gay pride celebration. Which, at the time, when I first learned about it, growing up, wanting and dreaming for racial harmony, listening to the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and thinking, yes, it is so tragic that this man was shot. This could have been a great, wonderful president if only he wasn't black in the time that he was. When I learned about Martin Luther King's assassination, I wasn't born at the time, but when I learned about him, I was so upset, and I was filled with this rage of why did someone kill such a brilliant, powerful man that had the power to change the world because he found the courage to speak up against oppression. And as a Jew growing up, he spoke to me. Listening to his audio recordings from beyond the grave, he spoke to me. As I came out as a butch lesbian and then later as a transgender man, I found out later that his right-hand man right by his side was Bayard Rustin, an openly gay black man. If it weren't for Bayard Rustin by the side of Martin Luther King, we might not have had the March on Washington. We might not have had the Civil Rights Act. We might not have had so many movements that have been going down the road. John Lewis. Thank you to the brave folks who came before us. My shirt that I'm wearing was several years ago when I was with my best friend and my fiance in one of the happiest moments of my life. It was an exhausting trek down the parade route, but I wore this with pride for my friend who founded this group, for folks like myself. And so I became an honorary member of TMAC Chicago. I was one of those people who eagerly waited in line, and I would have waited in those 4-hour lines that people talk about to vote for Mr. President Barack Hussein Obama again and again and again. In his second inauguration address on January 21st, 2013, we the people declare today that the most evident of truths, that all of us are created equal, is the star that guides us still, just as it guided our forebearers through Seneca Falls and Selma and Stonewall, just as it guided those men and women, sung and unsung, who left footprints along this great mall. To hear a preacher say that we cannot walk alone, to hear a king proclaim that our individual freedom is inextricably bound to the freedom of every soul on earth. That was life-changing for me. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Obama. Fuck you, Trump. That's all I have to say. Fuck you, Trump. Thank you, Mr. Obama. Mr. Obama made history that moment on January 21st, 2013, when he was the first sitting president to acknowledge Stonewall. And although we have come very far from the days of illegal bar raids and intimidation, police brutality, well, actually, no, we haven't. But at least people can get married to whomever they like. At least people can be at a job and not have to worry about being fired because they are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or questioning, or queer. I'm so grateful to those brave folks, men, women, and those that never got to make up their mind. I am so grateful to be standing in their shadows. And so I started January 21st, 2013 on Stonewall the Musical. After being inspired by Stephen Sondheim, thank you. My still living grandpa of musical theater, thank you for Assassins. Sunday in the Park with George, which I was forced to study in college and loved. Finishing the hat, watching the rest of the world go by as you're finishing the hat. I'm trying to finish the hat so they can't wipe us off the map. Hamilton. Thank you, Lin-Manuel Miranda. I saw In the Heights with my Aunt Betsy, who was the first person I felt comfortable coming out to as a trans man. It won't be long now. With that Latin soul, the best part of seeing Cats in the movie theater, thank you. I knew In the Heights was gonna lead to something great. I just didn't know what. And then, dun 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 dun. How does a bastard, orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman dropped in the middle of plus on July 3rd? Hamilton. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? Fun home. And your lace-up boots, and your dungarees, and your keys. Oh, your ring of keys. I know you. When little Allison Bechtel. Yes, that is where we get the Bechtel test for movies. And I remember reading through, and I got to the end, and I'd look at Dykes to watch out for, and I looked at Mo, and I was like, yeah! When Michael Severus was on stage, and I heard the opening dialogue at the Tony Awards, listened to those lines as if I had written them myself. You have a lesbian-centered musical revolving around a lesbian experience, an exclusive lesbian experience. I'm changing my major to Joan. I'm changing my major to sex with Joan. There's a place for us, somewhere a place for us. Hold my hand and we're halfway there. And at this Pride celebration, unbeknownst to me at the time, was someone I loved. When I was a butch lesbian growing up in my parents' house, I used to have pictures of Leah Delaria on my wall. I've written Stonewall the Musical with Leah Delaria to play one of the roles that I have written. My dreams, I can dream of a world where everyone has freedom to be who they want to be. I dreamed of Leah Delaria to be in Stonewall the Musical. Stonewall the Musical. Stonewall the Musical. Tonight would have been night 4, 51 years ago today. If you see this, Leah Delaria, I'm writing a dream role for you whenever it can happen. Because in my mind, you're part of my Stonewall journey that started 24 years ago